Okay, let's broaden out the discussion as we are going to over the next hour and a half. Khalil Dewan, my colleague, is here. Khalil is a researcher at the TRT World Research Centre. Khalil, you're the co-author of a report that has been published online from the TRT World Research Centre, which looks at the issue of Islamophobia. How significant is the rise in Islamophobia around the world? There has always been prejudice between religions throughout history. Is what's happening now something very particular to the moment?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I think the point to make is that white supremacy and the threat of the far right has pre-existed before the war on terror. And we see media structures, political structures within Western societies in particular, which have enabled this sort of rhetoric to really be fluid throughout society, and these groups and elements have taken this on board and use it as oxygen to really push forward the narrative.
When the gunman went from Australia to New Zealand, do you think there was a particular reason that he chose New Zealand?
Well, I think, there isn't a direct impact on New Zealand. However, this is exactly the point to make here. The threat from white supremacism and the far right is against individuals who, in the manifesto of Tarrant, is actually classed as immigrants. And particularly if we read the manifesto, it says Muslim thereafter. So I feel those societies which have a multicultural leaning will be subject to attack by these individuals, and they are actually a focus for these armed groups and ideologies.
The vast majority of the reaction around the world has, of course, been one of solidarity, one of appeasement, almost, to say, let's step back from this and not allow this to divide the world even further. And yet, of course, there are those people who have said absolutely despicable things. The internet age has allowed people, of course, to express their emotions in a way that's almost unchecked, because with a keyboard in front of you or a phone, you can say whatever you want to say without even having time almost to consider what the impact is going to be. Rupert Murdoch owns, well, let's say he could be possibly the most important media magnate in the world in terms of the newspapers he owns and the TV stations that he owns. He tweeted something that very clearly indicated his opinion, calling the jihadist cancer a Muslim problem, saying that Muslims have to confront this issue. And this is a thing that is continually thrown at Muslims. Because of the problems of terrorism that exist in the world today, the way some people in the world react say that your entire culture, your entire religion, whether that be white supremacy as an ideology or whether that be Islam as a religion, needs to answer for atrocities committed in that belief's name. And most people say that's simply impossible.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, we are at the turning point here. The war on terror has gone on for just under 2 decades, and Muslims have indeed been at the receiving end. In fact, there is an architectural design flaw of the war on terror. It only focuses on the Muslim identity and Islam as well. In fact, if we were to look at other groups, they just wouldn't fit within this whole framework which has been applied on the world, and states have willingly taken it on board, even through UN resolutions, you see. And I think the point to make is that white supremacism, it was very clandestine in the way they are administering themselves. And in the atrocious terrorist attack that we saw this time last week, it was taking place and it was live streamed on several social media platforms. And I think that social media leaders, they need to take much more responsibility with regards to the extremism policies, what's being put online, and they need to have monitoring of this 24/7. And there are several questions to be had here. For instance, why was Tarrant's attack aired for so long? Why wasn't the company responsible for this site? Why wasn't they notifying the intelligence services? And there are broader questions as well in terms of the intelligence agencies within New Zealand and the police law enforcement, why they didn't act faster.
There's so much more to talk about, Khalil, and obviously you're going to be with us throughout this special coverage. For the moment, thank you very much indeed.